Hello, my beautiful light beings. Welcome back to the Magic Exists podcast with Danny Margot. This is a podcast for anyone on their personal development or spiritual awakening journey who's transitioning from third dimensional living to fifth dimensional being. I'm so excited for you to be here. This is going to be a solo cast for me today. It is 2026. It's February 12th, and I'm hoping to get this out this week as well. There has been a lot of instances or experiences that have been coming up for me recently that I wanted to share. And so I don't know if this episode is literally just going to be me venting or speaking on the awakening journey as an entrepreneur or kind of just like how I navigate the world with my connection to the Akashic records. But I feel like I want to share my story from a new place. Usually I wait until I'm clear or I'm embodied or I've gone through my energetic upgrade and quantum leap before I share my story. But right now I'm in the pits of it. I literally feel like crying, and not in a way like, oh, are you okay? Like, no, I just have so much pent up energy and emotions that I'm currently working through. And I know I'm fine right now. I'll be fine tonight. I'll be fine tomorrow. But I'm like in the midst and the deepest energy of my shadow right now in terms of loneliness and connection with entrepreneurship. And so I actually want to share and speak from this place because I never have before. And I have been feeling a lot of things about my business and just like the quantum leap I took. So if you're new here, I'll just do a quick recap of just kind of like my story because I think it might have been a while. I grew up Catholic, and I always had this really strong claircognizance, that gut knowing. I never knew that was a psychic gift, but it is something I was working on every day of my life since I was a kid. So my claircognizance is so strong, which ties deeply into trusting myself. So I do have this very strong sense of trust within myself, which has helped me throughout my whole entire life. And so looking back, I am really grateful for that, even though I didn't really know that I was like on this my own like personal development journey. So my whole life, like my dad's from the Philippines. I'm half Filipino Chinese. My grandpa's adopted from China. And so I am half Asian. My full name was Danielle Margot Tan. I just got married. My mom is Mexican. So my grandpa from my mom's side is from New Mexico, Spanish, and my grandma is from Mexico, this super small city in Jalisco called Teocatiche, and I visited there often. I do speak a little bit of Spanish. Entiendo más que me puedo hablar, pero soy mexicana. And it's just been this like cool but interesting life to live where I always felt like I was not enough Mexican or not enough Asian. And so I grew up very much feeling like the not fitting in was like a huge theme in my life. And so I overcame that with immigrant parents and just like the patriarchal society of overachieving. So when you achieve something or you place a goal in front of you and you work towards it, you achieve this level of fulfillment because you work so hard for your goal and you achieved it. And that's so beautiful. But what I learned was that I was identifying so much with that when I produced something or achieved something, I was only worthy in those moments. And so when I was not working towards something, I didn't feel worthy of existing. I didn't feel like I was producing anything. I didn't feel like I was good enough. And so that is a big loop and theme that I've been currently working with in my relationship with my husband, which we're going to loop back into that. But I kind of wanted just to start in the beginning. And I always compared myself to everyone else who was like, knew what they wanted to be since they grew up. They were going into nursing, they were going into casting, they were going into marketing. And I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. I got an internship after college and wasn't paid, just to try to figure out like what I was doing with my life. And along the way, I always felt like there was something missing in my life. So I ended up working for my dad for a decade in his business and kind of having the sense that I would take it over at one point and be this entrepreneur, this this business owner, small business owner. And while I was doing that, I traveled to 20 countries before the age of 30. I bought a condo on my own at the age of 27. I had several long-term relationships that were really fulfilling, and I had a lot of good friends, and I worked out. I had a six pack. I was backpacking. I was on basketball teams. Like everything that, like, from, if you were to view that from the outside, like I had such an amazing years, in my 20s, but I always still felt like this part of me was empty or missing and lacking fulfillment. And so 2019, this was right before the pandemic, I was 29 and I moved in with my ex-boyfriend of 4 years, and we moved to Manhattan Beach and I was living in Glendale at the condo I bought, which you guys kind of know the story. We're going to go into that of how I just sold it. But I moved to the beach and we were living together for the first time, and he had a lot of ancestral trauma. And I didn't realize, like, up until that point, I dated a lot, and I would always like compromise parts of myself. Like, that energy when you feel like you are like on eggshells around someone because you don't want to like disrupt them or trigger them because I just like literally didn't know how to hold space. And so there was a lot of compromising myself. And up until that point, I always made sure I was like 55% happy. And then like that was okay for me. Cause as long as I was more happy than I was sad in a relationship, like that was okay. And to look at that now is wild because I'm like 150% happy in my relationship. But to think that like all my whole life, I was okay with a relationship being slightly better than it was bad. And so it was a lot about compromising myself. I like not like, let's say if you just want to hang out with some friends, and I like felt even pressure to like bring it up to my ex in a time where he wasn't like emotionally heavy or carrying something. He was like male cancer. And I would even feel guilty like bringing up this conversation to not ask him. Like, I'm not asking him permission, but when you live with someone, you have to navigate your relationship together. There is this like mutual respect that is happening when you are cultivating this relationship, and you can't just like leave at no time. And it was something I wanted to have this mutual respect on, and it's not permission, but it's just like acknowledgement. But also like if there was something that he was like, oh well, I wanted to do this, like can you reschedule, like I would be open to that. So all that to say, like I didn't know how much I was compromising myself in these relationships before. And so I got a life coach at 2019, and I was just trying to figure out like what should I do with my career? And at this point, I didn't know the pandemic was going to happen, and I was also in a car accident. I was in two car accidents in 2013, and that one left me severely chronic pain all of my 20s. And then, so 2019 hits, and I'm in a second car accident. January 2019, I totaled my little cute Prius that I loved and I was obsessed with. And again, that back pain came back. And I really truly believe like these huge pivotal moments, these like existential, life changing moments are spirit like trying to awaken you. And obviously in the moment I didn't know. And I was just like, again, like I'm a bad driver, bringing all this guilt around me. Like, was I not looking? Obviously I was. Obviously I was actually at a red light and they hit me from behind. Or wait, hold on. It was red and it turned green. So I went and then the person ran the red. So it's just like, that was happening. I got a life coach and I moved to the beach. So all these like changes and shifts happened. And then the pandemic hit and I couldn't work. I was working with the geriatric population, going to nursing homes, and there was just not clients coming into the office. So my dad was like, why don't you just stay home? Like, there's not really much for you to do here. And so I started this MLM with Scout and Cellar selling wine, and I was getting my sommelier because I really felt like the energy of wine was celebratory. And I loved like the experience of going to these wines and hearing these winemakers talk about just their labor of love. Oh my God, I like want to cry right now, even. I'm not on my period, I swear. um, and it was so beautiful and I had a lot of joy. And I knew in those moments, like there was this knowing, right? That claircognizance was coming through. You're never going to have this time of joy that you like, and release of guilt and judgment ever again in your life in this way. And so I didn't work for, I think like maybe 6 months to a year. I didn't work. I think it was a year. And I just was living in Manhattan Beach, living on the street with my best friends, manifesting my best friends moving next to me. I was going paddleboarding, biking by myself, and just really learned to cultivate what it was like to be okay with myself. And I think a lot of us have similar, journeys with the pandemic and our spiritual awakenings. And so I just wanted to give you a quick recap that like I really truly believe that even if I wasn't in alignment, I was searching. I wasn't searching in the right places, but I was open and I chose to be open because I knew something was not right. And I think there's a lot of fear around that. Oh, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the uncertainty, the fear of failing. And I just knew after searching for over a decade, searching my whole life, that there was more out there. I would sit under the stars playing basketball in my parents' front yard, and I would just look and sit in the middle of the street and feel a sense of peace. And like, I know someone up there is looking after me. And having been raised Catholic, I did have a deep connection to God and prayer. And so I am really grateful, that with that connection. And so I moved to the beach. I have a life coach. I got in a car accident, and then my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend breaks up with me. And there was a condo across the street, and it was selling, I think it was going for like 2,200, which was way out of my price range. And I was just like, I remember my ex broke up with me, and I remember like sitting in bed, and I remember waking up the next morning just sitting there like, what just happened? I just ended this 4-year relationship. Like, what do I do? And the first thing that came to mind was like, you need to forgive him. And I was like, that was where my mind was. Instead of being hurt, I don't know. I think I was just knew that I was going to be okay. And maybe I was kind of already kind of releasing myself from that relationship because I could feel his pulling away. And instead of communicating what I needed, I didn't know how to do that. I kind of just slowly detached myself, which is extremely unhealthy. But in that moment, I remember waking up and telling him, I forgive you for breaking up with me and uprooting our lives in the middle of the pandemic. Like, I truly, honestly forgive you. And I remember him sitting there just like crying and being like, whoa, like I didn't even know I was going to break up with you. And I didn't even know I needed that. And so that really like helped us. I think we lived together for another month and a half while I looked for a place. And so there was that place across the street. I messaged the guy. We looked at it that next day, and I was like, that's way out of my price range. I'm looking more towards like 1,800 to 2,000. And he was like, okay, I'll give it to you for 1,900. And that place had been sitting there for a month. So this is like one of those divine guidance, divine interventions that I truly believe was there for me. And it was my choice to like allow myself to expand in that way and trust that I was going to be taken care of, because I had no idea like where that money was going. I had a decent amount of savings, but most of it went into the house I bought 2 years prior. And, I was on unemployment. So it wasn't like, oh, I can just like, be on this forever. Like I was applying to jobs. I remember my best friend Shannon and her husband, we would like sit on their patio applying to jobs 6 hours a day, like every day for like months. It was like wild. But in that moment, I walked in, I was like, I need to live here. And that's the most I had like ever paid for anything in my life. I barely moved out, so I called my dad and he was like, you can't do that. You need to come move home. You have your room here. And then I called my mom thinking I would get a different, and they're like, that's too expensive, Dani. You can't live there. And I remember just crying because I knew in me, I can't move home. Like I have to like heal on my own in my own space. And this beach, it's like I just knew I have to be here. And I remember my best friend Chelsea and Steph were like up at Chelsea's house, 5 houses up at that moment. And I walked up and I was crying and I was like, guys, like I don't know what to do. And they, for the first time, I feel like they shared with me, they're like, we don't always listen to our parents. I was like, really? Like, yeah, a lot of times they just trying to like, they try to look out for you, but you know what's best. And I needed to hear that because I was like, I'm going to take this condo. I'm going to take this studio, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I don't know how long I'll be here, but I just know this is for me. And that I like me trusting myself in that moment was like one of the most life-changing experiences that I ever had. And like that was when I met my other best friend, Marnie, if you've seen, my videos, she's also been a guest here. She is a CMO in a huge company, also wrote a book about taking a seat at the table as a, um, Filipino woman. And just, I met her and she introduced me to an energy chiropractor that helped me understand what energy was and help heal my back in a way that I was holding on to energy from childhood and trauma and experiences. And like when he would adjust me, he would just tell me these things that were like psychically, he would like, how would he know these things? And he would adjust me, but also know energy. And that was like my first awakening. And as well as listening to the Deepak Chopra and Oprah's 21 day meditation, um, challenge. And I know all the things with the Epstein files. I kind of posted this on Instagram and I'll just touch a little bit about it. Like, I'm grateful for what that brought me. I haven't really felt called to his work other than that, but, I just have to honor where I was. And now there's obviously, I will not touch anything that he has, shared or anything. But during that time, it was such a huge awakening for me where I went from this like personal development to spiritual awakening. And I really just got to cultivate myself. And so I'm sharing this with you because that trust that I had in myself to sign that lease, it was just overwhelming. Those moments of your life where your whole body is like just saying yes, because your body is the unconscious and knows, and it's just, you can't not do that thing or take that leap of faith. And I'm so glad I did, because a month after moving into my place, my studio, I met the love of my life, Daniel, my husband, who now I am. My name is Danielle Margot Gutierrez officially. And whoa, it's like crazy to think that that was like honestly the first half of my journey. And the other half now, as we move into who I became through that relationship and starting my business, I honestly like really, really, really give a lot of credit to my husband. And with him, it always felt easy in the beginning. But we would definitely fight when we would like drink or go out. And we definitely had different morals in terms of like, he didn't want kids. I didn't either at that time. And so there were definitely a lot of like these small red flags that I noticed, but just our alignment, our energy, we had so much fun together. It was easy to communicate. I tell him this now. He's like, what drew you to me? And he had paid for Hinge. And so he like slipped into like the favorites. I think it might be different now. And so I set my radius to like, I'm only going to date someone who I can bike to. And he like slipped into the favorites where it's like an expanded diameter because they pay for it. And he like hearted me. And I really don't know, because I never really like reached out to people, but I noticed he was from LA and I was like, oh, wow, I never meet people from LA. I'm born and raised in LA too. And that's what like got us talking. And I remember like a bunch of his like messages, he would put exclamation, exclamation, exclamation at the end. And I'm like, that is so sweet. And honestly, like that's what attracted me to him. Obviously, there was like so much more to that, but it was this like deep just knowing with him that I was meant to be with him. And that was the biggest like cultivation of not only relationship with myself, worthiness. And I don't think I've spoken about this about on my podcast, but I had this rule, like parameter I had, that if the guy didn't fall in love with me, or like if things weren't going well by year 2, I would break up with them. So all my relationships are less than 2 years or slightly over. And I had this theme that men would fall in love with me really quickly, and they would like, ask me to be their girlfriend within a week, a month, quite quickly, but then they would like lose interest quickly. So it was this like energy of not being able to keep men's like energy or like keep them, whatever that was. And I understand now it's because I didn't know who I was. I wouldn't speak my truth of what I needed. I would just think they should know. They should know what I need. And it's like, no, we are all navigating this world together. And there does need to be this like fundamental building block era in which you are telling them and communicating with them what you need. And so, for example, Valentine's Day is coming up, and like my husband has already booked a brunch for us, has been discussing, like, this was a surprise, but then we did discuss going to golf during the day, and then he already booked like a surprise dinner for us. But he knew from the beginning, like, this is something I needed, and I would like communicate that with him. And like, I know people are like, oh, anti Valentine's Day and anti celebration. But honestly, for me, any moment to celebrate love and my love for him and my love for something we've created so intentionally, I love it. And so he does get me flowers randomly, and I get them for myself too. Like, it's just become this like 5-year exploration of each other. And I'll just talk briefly about relationship because I really truly believe that it is really intertwined with the spiritual awakening. I know there's like a lot of women out there who are like, oh, I can't find a spiritually aligned man. And my husband is not spiritual in a sense that you think a normal spiritual person would be. He's very analytical, very in his mind, very logical, but he has this compassion and openness to me and respects like what I do. And I feel like even if he doesn't understand it, he'll just still listen and, respects what I do. And so it's been this like beautiful journey because what I've noticed in myself with him and in other relationships is there's this like tit for tat. Like, I'm putting this much in energy or commitment or money into this relationship. And I expect this also from you. And I expect it in the way that I need to be loved. And, if you haven't read that love languages book, I think there's the 5 love languages, right? Physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and gift giving. That's a really good place to start. And that's where I started understanding what I needed. And so when someone would go and give me gifts, that like, I didn't know that that was their love language, but really that they were showing me love. And I was like, no, I need you to be here, quality time. I don't need you to buy me anything, or I need you to tell me I'm beautiful every day because that's what I need. And so it's this like training process because you are this person who's still discovering yourself. I was still discovering myself. Yeah, I was having to discover how I can operate and be in alignment with my partner. And so there would be moments where I moved in with my husband, now, and he had a free apartment. And I remember like, I didn't have to pay rent because it was a free apartment, but I was like, "Oh, I'll buy groceries or something." I forget what, like, our agreement was, and that was really what allowed me the space to, like, start my business because I didn't have that income that I needed. And there would be moments where I would get frustrated or annoyed that he wasn't cooking or cleaning or, taking out the trash when I was at home all day, like, half the week not working or, quote unquote working, but like not getting paid. And so there was 2 parts to that. Me not feeling worthy, which is a topic we'll talk about shortly. But the main one is this like feeling of reciprocity where I was like, I'm taking care of the house. I'm doing all these things and you're not doing enough for me. And the root of that, right, which I had to reflect on and uncover is that I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel supported in the ways that I needed to. So old me would have been like, you're not taking out the trash. You're not washing dishes. Like, why aren't you doing all this stuff? And I could have like nagged him about these situations or these things. But what I chose to do was micro explain like what I was feeling towards that and really use like that experience as a self-reflection exploration. So I would sit with it. I'm like, why am I feeling annoyed that he's not cleaning his dishes? Like, why am I doing that? Like, so a couple things came through where the first one was like, I don't feel like he's like, when he comes home, he's not doing anything for me. So I feel like I need to be shown love, right? I'm like, okay, so I don't feel supported. And the second one, the second one was insourcing gratitude. So, like, wow, he goes to work all day. He like literally provides this freaking free apartment for me. Why am I complaining? And just really shifting the perspective to gratitude, or else I wouldn't have been able to start my business. And so when I shifted those perspectives, I was able to understand and insource the perspective of gratitude, but then also talk to him about, hey, you're gone all day at work, and I'm transitioning into working from home half the time, and you're gone a lot, and I really miss you. Is there a way in which like I can feel more supported and loved by you when you're gone, or when you come home? And so the conversation isn't like you did this wrong, it's your fault. It's like I'm feeling a certain way. I'm being triggered. And after my personal reflection with the Akashic records, with journaling, I realized I just need to feel more loved and safe. And so we were able to talk about it. And since then, we have weekly date nights every Friday. We try, sometimes every other Friday. And so it's something to look forward to and get excited about. And we really are able to connect deep one-on-one, like uninhibited, without distractions. And so this is something that was built, right? And so this is the foundation of what I have cultivated with myself and him, that relationship, but also other people's relationships. Like with my, family, parents. I really felt like transitioning now, part of this spiritual awakening journey is like you're doing so much work, right? So I was getting coaching done. I paid $11,000 for Alyssa Nobriga's coaching container, which revolutionized my life, helped me hold space for people, but also hold space for myself, learn how to have compassion and forgiveness for myself, right? All the inner child work. But realized during that time that like there was, I'm on that personal development journey. If you're here, you're obviously taking some kind of classes or going to therapy or getting coaching or learning or reading books and podcasts that are helping expand you so that you can be a better person and live life, maybe find your purpose, maybe find fulfillment, maybe make more money, maybe just get out of the rut that you are in. And this is why you're doing this. This is why I did that, right? And so during this coaching container, my relationship was one of the main things that was healed with Daniel, which I am so grateful for. And I will say, like, let's say, like, maybe I was 80% happy then. I am like through the freaking roof in gratitude and love and joy. And it doesn't mean like that there's not still moments that I'll get annoyed, but it's like, how can I shift the perspective of who he is and not like getting annoyed with this one like insignificant situation? And I use that as an opportunity to always come back to myself. Why am I triggered in this moment? Why am I hurt by this situation? And understand what the lesson is so that I can learn that for myself. Because oftentimes, like using our relationships as mirrors will help us grow. It's not easy, it doesn't feel good. But in the end, it's a sense of freedom that will increase your happiness and openness and all the things. But another relationship is my relationship with my mom. And I don't think she listens to this or any of my family, so good vibes. I'm going to just say nice things. But I have a really high EQ, emotional EQ, and my mom and my dad, but my mom is an engineer. But my mom and dad, they weren't emotional people. And so just growing up, I didn't feel like I had anyone to converse about other than like my best friend, Shannon. And my siblings are significantly younger than me, so I didn't feel like I had anyone to confide in. And so I didn't realize I had built up a lot of resentment of just being so lonely growing up. And I had my beautiful aunt and uncle that I would go over to their house sometimes. And I am grateful for that. But there was this sense of like emotional depth that I needed from them that I didn't receive and have never received. And I'm at a really good place now of knowing that, like, accepting everyone for who they are, right? But there was a lot of resentment and inner child work where there was past versions of me that was really sad for not being able to have the conversations to the depth of which I wanted to have them with my mom or my parents, and a lot of resentment about how they were so limiting. And I'll give you an example. In high school, I had a I think I have a 3.9, and I was varsity captain at basketball. I was all league in cross country. I was treasurer of the school, on Congress, on assembly. I took choir 0 period. So just think like the overachieving person who was like doing all the things. And I got like a 3.9 instead of a 4.0 one year. Or maybe I went down to 3.7, something like that. And my dad was like, I'm going to ship you off to the Philippines next year if you don't get a 4.0. Like that's what the environment I was living in. And so I worked my ass off and I got a 4.1. And that was like what constituted like I already forgot like what I was talking about. But oh yeah, the resentment, right? Of like not letting me be free. Even when I had a 4.1, they would let me go out like once a week and they had to like monitor me. They didn't let me date. And so as a 5, me in numerology, I'm a 459. So as a 5 in my numerology, that's freedom. I was very limited. So I had a lot of resentment around not of being stifled, of not being trusted to make my own decisions. I think my parents, like, I think they bought my clothes until like freshman year of high school, until this girl from my basketball team this senior, she was so awesome. She brought me and she's like, why are you wearing a size 5? You're probably a size 0. And then she brought me like to the, like, what was it? Those Wet Seal or something. And I tried on some jeans. I was like, oh, whoa, I'm a size 0 and these fit. She's like, yeah, you just don't wear clothes that fit. Cause I didn't know, I didn't have anyone to like teach me those things, So anyways, all that to say, is you don't need to do when you are healing a relationship, you don't actually need to consult with the person, like my partner Daniel or my mom, to heal the relationship. You heal yourself, right? So I went back to those memories where I felt alone and I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to and I felt sad. And so from the Akashic Records standpoint, or you can even do this just energetically through a journal, I would sit in meditation and I would go to the Akashic Records and I would invite that version forward. So let's say the 13-year-old version who like, actually we'll go 15-year-old version of me that like wanted to date and wanted to go out and just was like, no, all you can do is study. That's like what your purpose is right now. And you can't do anything else that you desire. And you have to shut off your intuition. And like, you're the machine right now because you just need to build this life and foundation. Right. And so there's this conversation that I had with my inner child, this 15-year-old version of me. And I would sit there and she would be crying and I would be crying and she just felt so alone. And this is the point of all this, of what I'm saying, right? Of this loneliness feeling has been something I have felt since I was a kid. And I think like a lot of star seeds like have this feeling as well, of just like not being understood in this world and not like having a place in it and just like having different perspectives. And obviously I still have some inner child work to do. But yeah, it was like, so what you do when you have that conversation with that version of you, you don't have to reprise the memory. A lot of trauma, a lot of people who have trauma fear that. You don't have to, with big T or, small t. And I am a trauma informed coach, so that's just a side note, but you just have to reprise the memory that's alive for you right now. And so that was feeling alone, feeling lonely. And you just have a conversation back and forth saying like, I'm sorry that you were felt that way. I'm so sorry. I love you, but I'm here for you now because you have that connection now. And it's like enabling you to know you have yourself. But I think all that to say is like, I think that's what I've been struggling with. That's been the biggest hardship and journey of my personal development journey, is like being so lonely. And this is what I want to try sharing. It's like, I feel like I go through all these things on my own and then I share like the positives with you guys, but I don't think I share like how I actually move through it. And this has been something that's come up 3 times in my journey already. And it's been 3 years since I started my business, almost 3 years. And when I first started my business, uh, you are the one creating the business. So you have this desire and this drive to start something for yourself. That's different, right? And you have all this desire to be a helper and change the world, but you don't know how. And I had no marketing, I had no experience. So you go on, you do this research and it's really hard and you try to hold space, but sometimes you feel like you don't want the client to show up because you don't feel like you're good enough to heal them or read them. Yet you do have profound readings that change people's life and you feel good to be seen and validated for the first time for your gifts and your power in a way that isn't That, like, isn't mainstream or, like, attached to your productivity or your worth. It's just something that you wanna do that feels right for you. And it's really hard to find spaces. I think that's what's been really cool about these memberships lately that people have, because there's space where you could converse and talk to people that that can resonate with you. And don't get me wrong, like, I have such good friends. Like, the community I have is great, but just like becoming a mother, like, people who are mothers, I don't understand what it is to have a kid yet. And I'm sure if you're a mother, you understand that transition that happens. Like, and for me, even just being married for recently, um, I I wish I had a little different perspective moving into marriage. I feel like there was so much pressure that I put on me and my husband to get married that now on the other side, I'm like, I could have been slower about it, to relish in it and no regrets. But there's like, there's just, everyone's going through their own shit. And I think when you're getting older and older, this happens more where until like 33, 32, 33, so about 4 years ago, I'm 36 now. I had like a really good set of friends that I would see all the time. We were single or like not living with people yet. And we just were able to hang out honestly sometimes every weekend. It was just like we would meet up and hang out. And whether it's doing a spiritual practice or drinking wine or hanging out at the beach or going on bike rides. And I had this like sense of community. And I do think when you get older, most of my friends are married now. Some of them have kids now. And it's been a quick transition just in the last 2 years. And you become more distant. You become more like, I'm creating a family now, and the energy I have towards that and creating, my family's being my and Danielle, my husband, and creating a business, holding space for my clients. It's a lot of energy, but it also is very specific. And through the work I've done, I realize a lot of my friends, they if they're not doing the work, they don't have the same conversations or they are very triggering, so there is this process that happens in entrepreneurship, in the personal development journey that is so lonely. And I feel like there's moments of that that's so deep. And then you come out of it and you're like really focusing on the purpose and the impact that you're making, and um like just like I'll talk about the client side soon, but that's like the first year, right? That was maybe 2024 for me. Early last year, I got initiated as an Akashic master by my guides, and I've been like a Reiki master since 2022. But now I'm like starting to teach it early last year. And I felt really lonely again because I went to another quantum leap. I stepped into my highest timeline, and in that master space, like, I don't have a big following yet. Like, I barely left my official 9 to 5. I hadn't left it yet. I left it in October when I got married. So I was still working part-time for my dad. And so I wasn't like fully in where I'm at now, which I want to move into like what it feels like to be in this 5-month transition. But last February, right? This is when Yeshua came to me. You're going to start teaching. You're an Akashic master. You've done this for a lifetime. You are going to be attracting galactic historians and Akashic weavers who have done this for lifetimes. I had a Pleiadian Akashic weaver in my program last year, and we are like, I'm being the guide and the bridge to help them remember their gifts. And something that just came through right now is like, how can you, if there's a question that I can invite you into, how can you trust yourself more and listen to your intuition and do the things that are scary? Like I did with starting a business, like I did with moving into that studio, even though everyone told me no. And I actually just I've been watching Taylor Swift's Eras tour. And like in the first episode, she goes, you have to want this so bad that everyone will tell you that you're not going to make it or it's not going to work out for you, or it's too hard. And you have to want it so bad that your voice is louder than everyone else's. And it's like, how do you get there? And it sometimes feels counterintuitive, but it's working on yourself. Like, I will forever say that coaching year of just literally going into those moments of like, and okay, so sorry. Now there's a lot of things I want to talk about, but the fear of being rejected, the fear of being seen, the fear of taking up space, like these are all wounds. The witch wound you could talk about, or just wounding that I had, and that I needed to work through as an entrepreneur. And so last year I got initiated as a master, and I think I made like 15,000 in 2024. I mean, I feel like sharing numbers is important because I feel like it's so stigmatized. But in my business, right, I still was working part-time elsewhere. And so last year comes through and they're like, Yeshua and my guides, the divine mothers came through, the dragons, the archangels, and they're like, okay, you're going to teach people and you're going to have, a lot of people come through. And I had 14 people come through my Akashic program alone. I had, I think, 22 people come through my Reiki program, which was so beautiful as well. I think Reiki, is the fundamental foundation of life. I think everyone should do Reiki. I think everyone should do the Akashic Records, but I know that's more specialized. But anyways, I remember writing in a journal because I felt so alone in this new space where I had this high perspective of life. I have a really high view on life. And I'm able to zoom in on that. So when something happens or I'm hurt, like for example, that breakup with my ex, instead of being in victim and sad, which yes, you can be. And yes, I was sad and I would cry, but I had this way of looking at the relationship that there must be something better out there for me. And I'm going to trust that. And that's the high perspective, right? That there's this divine working that's happening that I'm going to trust, even if it doesn't make sense now and it's uncertain and I don't know the path ahead of me. But I know I'm supposed to be here and this is the next step to get the studio. And I don't know, like, I'm not going to regret wasting the 4 years. I'm not going to like focus on the past. I'm not going to focus on the future. Like future right now, this studio, I'm supposed to be here. This is a vessel for my healing. I don't know what my healing is going to look like. I don't know what the next 4 years is going to look like, but I freaking surrender. And I remember telling myself, like, I'm going to be single for years. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to focus on me. I'm tired. It was a 4-year relationship I got out of. A month later, I freaking meet my future husband. And so it's really about like when you are able to shift into that high perspective of just trusting and knowing there is this like higher working, like the universe is so intentional. And if you are able to just create spaciousness for the universe to give you those little signs of the next step forward, like I think this message is for me right now. Okay, so in the master, what I wrote in the journal is who holds the masters? And it said they hold themselves, which, was very frustrating for me to hear. And so I want to talk a little bit about the Akashic Records and how it helped me with last year. So I planned my wedding last year and everyone was telling me how hard it is and how overwhelmed I was going to be and burnt out and how the decision fatigue and stressful. And so I was like waiting for that moment to happen and it never happened. And there's definitely moments where there was a lot of energy and work you have to put into it. I mean, I want to say at least 5 hours a week I was putting into, working on my wedding. And so if you haven't been married, you have to, if you don't get a planner, I just had a day of coordinator who coordinated the day, which was amazing. Highly recommend. I'm also selling my dress if anyone wants it. Love it. Obsessed with it. Obsessed with just my whole wedding. But the perspective I took was like, you got to get all the vendors. So there's the cake, there's the flowers, there's like the table settings, there's the tables, there's the venue, there's the dress, there's the hair, there's the makeup, there's the food, there's the DJ, there's the photographer. I mean, I had a photo booth. There's so much. And, you're emailing maybe 10 people each category, and you have to kind of negotiate with them, go back and forth with them. And so it's a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of questions, a lot of answers, just like having your vision come through. And I'm not someone who ever thought about marriage because I never felt good enough. Like I never thought I would find someone that loved me enough to marry me, honestly. So this was all kind of new to me. And I just, if you haven't regulated your nervous system, and honestly, just like book a 1 hour coaching session with me and I will just teach you how. I do parts work with energy, but it's like kind of like this inner child work I talked about where you go into the records and you could talk back and forth, or you can give, or you could do it somatically within your body and give that part of you that is feeling scared, a voice. And it's not about rejecting these parts of you. You can be sad, you could be mad, you could be angry, you could be resentful. That's been a big one of mine that I've been letting go of. And it's okay for that to be there. It's about offering yourself compassion because you are whole and all these parts are okay and accepted. So after, really coming into wedding planning with a regulated nervous system, there would definitely be times where like there was a lot of shit ton of work to do. And I was like also trying to create my business for the first time, hold these containers that, I was almost burnt out, but I would just, stop or go to the Akashic records and get clarity, or I would journal to help ease like my purpose, anchor in my intention, have gratitude for the moment. So these were like my rituals I would do in order to self-regulate or go on walks. And so I never felt that decision fatigue. I never felt stressed. I really truly believed that that perspective I had, right, that I was holding, that my wedding would be amazing. I just knew it. It was me great. And I knew the right vendors would come, the right people would come in my field. And I just knew it. And so I just kept trusting that. I would email people. I'm like, oh, I'll trust the right person's going to just be chosen. Like, I kind of felt like it wasn't even me doing the choosing, like God, universe was choosing the person for me. And I would do the work, right? I was emailing, I was on Yelp, I was on Google, I was calling, but I was like, oh, like I think there's already a curated team that's ready for me, and so I know that will be the team that is chosen, and so I just trusted myself to be divinely guided, and my friends told me this. She's like, you've literally handpicked every single person, every vendor for your wedding. And it's like so magical. And I literally handpicked the best crew, the best team. It was an amazing freaking wedding. And so it's like oftentimes I would like, if you have the perspective that you think you're doing everything alone, right? I'm talking about how I feel so lonely. There are moments that obviously I'm always feeling lonely. I'm just in this moment right now. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. But now that I'm reflecting, my perspective is shifting where I do remember, like, I am so divinely guided by the universe and God. Like, they support me so much in all the little things. And I really came at it from this surrendered high perspective place of planning my wedding and, helping my mom plan her 60th and help my best friend coordinate her, bachelorette and engagement party. And like, what else did I do last year? It was a really big year for me of opening my capacity that I can do anything. Because in the past, I would be like, get stressed out easily, but so moving into getting married, there's a huge energetic shift with any decision you make. And what I really want to offer you is any decision you make, I want you to be grounded in that decision because whatever decision you make is right because you made it. And that's a perspective I want you to have because the energy of regret, I should have, I shouldn't have, like, I truly believe even if a decision was maybe wrong, it's not wrong, it's just harder, right? You made something harder for yourself. There was a lesson I hadn't learned yet, so I needed to make that quote unquote wrong or hard decision so that I can close out that loop, understand that lesson, and move through it. So if anything happens to me that's wrong or hard or bad, I always just ask the Akashic records, like, what lesson did I need to learn from this experience that will help me, move forward? So during the breakup, I went through so many, you know, um, reflections. And before the wedding, I literally have like, I don't know if you guys can see if you're watching the video, like this is my journal from last year, 2025, and now we're in 2026. I'm already halfway through this journal and it's only February 2026. That's how much I've been reflecting on the lessons and experiences of my relationship, of my marriage, of my transition. And so I got married in September. And so all the months upcoming, I was so intentional with Daniel and my sacred vow, right? This sacred vow, a vow that you make, a contract that you make in this lifetime lasts lifetimes. And so you need to be really, really intentional and aware of what you are doing and the impact you are making for your karmic cycle through lifetimes. And so I knew that we were doing ancestral healing. I knew that we were going to do things differently. And so we would have these conversations of maybe how things were done with our families in the past. And then we would talk about how we wanted to be and do and how what we wanted to cultivate in the relationship. And, me being the one that kind of goes deep, I'm like, well, what do you love about me? And what are the 5 things that you would change about me? And what's the thing that really lights you up with me these days? If there's anything you could change in the relationship, what would it be? And I think we should normalize these questions, because I know there can be an energy of like, if someone tells you something like a critique, you can be really hurt by it. But you have to remember, anyone's critique, first off, is a projection of their own reality, has nothing to do with you. And that you need to anchor into that, because anything that someone tells you that is hurtful to you is obviously a trigger within you that you see within yourself. So seeing that as an opportunity for you to reflect upon that yourself and heal that within you, so that if someone says that to you again, you will not be triggered. Like, that's the goal of healing. And so having these like critiques from the person who you love so deeply, and then we were literally going to make an unconditional vow towards, I received all the critiques and I was like, and it doesn't mean that he's right or he's wrong. It's just that's his perspective. And I was able to sit with it, receive it, and also share with him things I wanted to change. And I think that vulnerability, that level of vulnerability, but also trust with yourself and the other person, is what is going to create like a really beautiful foundation of a relationship. And so I was so intentional with the sacred vow we were going to make, and just what I wanted in life, and what the vision I had for us, and what our purpose was together. And so all this information, I would go into the Akashic records and I would sit and I would be like, what's the lesson of Daniel and I getting married? What is our purpose together? Like, what are we meant to bring forward? What is our energy bringing? Like, why is this sacred vow important now in this lifetime? And like, have we made it in past lives? And what was the lesson in those lives? And so when the energetic vow dropped in, when we made that vow the first week, I felt the timeline shift so strong. And the first week, I couldn't even, I was just trying to embody and anchor and ground, because the energy was in my field and I just felt it, like in my soul template, right? In my blueprint, in my auric field. Second week, it like finally anchored in and it came through as wisdom. And it was like, whoa. First off, like I already felt pretty like worthy at that point. Like I'd done a lot of work. But for someone to like unconditionally love you no matter what, and make that sacred vow with how intentional him and I are, it's this like new level of abundance, new level of like limitless potential that I felt like I had, that I never felt before. And that was just it was so beautiful. And so we go on our honeymoon and it's just so fun. We went to Spain and went to my best friend's wedding in France. And then we got back and Daniel already left his corporate job, that like literally his job where they own the Miami Dolphins, they owned Equinox, Soul Cycle, this cushy job, and went for a startup. And he was commuting already that year. And I obviously wanted to make my way back to the beach. So I made the decision that I'm going to sell my condo that we were living in and we were going to move to the beach. So a week after our honeymoon, we signed a lease at this beautiful place that I'm in now in Redondo Beach, and I list my condo on the market. And so I want to talk about the Akashic records and like just the transitions that were happening. I had been feeling into selling the condo for a year already before that. And it's that claircognizance, that knowing that I need to sell the condo. This is one of those shifts I need to do and make as I step into this new timeline, this new version of me, this new identity of who I was choosing to be. And the if I know, like, my husband was reading I think it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something. It's like an Asian guy on the cover. It's like a purple book. And he talks about like any investment you make is better if it's like you make passive income from it. And so pretty much like his advice would be to hold on to the condo, to just continue to make revenue and increase your equity so that you can have like a bountiful money in abundance later. So logically, and like my dad's kind of like a real estate, I don't want to say Mongol, but like he's really created a beautiful life as an immigrant out here and created his wealth. And so he's very much into real estate. He's a real estate broker. I'm also a real estate broker, even though I'm not practicing. And so it was this thing of like, why are you selling your condo? And logically, I was explaining to people, well, like the money I'm going to get from it, like we can put down as a down payment for a new house we're going to buy. But really, there was no logical explanation for it. I just knew I had to do it. And I talked to my house. I would communicate with her through the Akashic Records, through energy. And she's like, your time here is done and it's time to go. And we've nurtured you for the last decade and we've held you and you've lived here in several eras of your life. I lived there when I was 27 to 29. And then I lived there when I was 30, I think 34 to 36. And so it was through the energy of trusting myself despite everyone else's voices of telling me not to. And it was trusting the energy of the house that I was feeling and the Akashic Records. Every time I would connect, they're like, you need to sell it. You need to sell it. You need to sell it. And so I decided to list it on myself. I've never sold a house on my own before. I've sold maybe a couple houses for relatives, like with my dad or with someone else. But I had never done it on my own, taken lead on it. So this was a whole process of really trusting myself separate from anything else. So I want to explain to you like what that means. When I trusted myself, I listed it at 555 because that's what my guides told me. It appraised for 573. So I could have gone a little higher, but the market during the holidays isn't very good and there weren't a lot of buyers. And I was selling it as is. Not that it was bad, but it's an HOA, which was like 600 a month. So there was just like a lot of things kind of going against it. And I just trusted that this was correct, right? This was the right thing to do. And the it could have fallen through. The loan actually fell through. The VA loan fell through. They tried to get an FHA loan. It fell through. They somehow got a conventional loan. I don't know what was going on there, but it extended almost a month, the escrow. And so in those moments, I was like, if this falls through, I no longer trust myself. And that was like the belief I had. And what I had to work through was no, if this falls through, you still made a decision to list your place. That was the right decision. Whatever you're learning through this period, to trust yourself, you need to trust yourself separate from anything. If anything goes right or wrong, you need to trust yourself separate from the Akashic Records, separate from, I was just like, I need to be so embodied and anchored in myself, my trust and my knowing. And this was a huge lesson for me. And it ended up closing beautifully. It was like the smoothest transaction you can ever do. And like real estate agents actually make a lot of money. I don't know if you guys know this. Like, I mean, my thing sold for like 555. My commission alone, just as the buying or the selling agent, was like 15,000. And so the selling agent for like hardly doing anything was like also 15,000. I was like, that's wild. Like that's how much I had made the year before. So that was interesting. But anyways, like, and my dad, he's like, the decision you made, I don't know if I agree with it, but I trust you. He's like, I'm so impressed by you that you sold this on your own. And I had a transaction coordinator that was like doing all the contracts, but I never allowed myself to be in the scarcity or the lack of it. When those fears would come through, I'm like, it's okay to be scared and it's okay to be uncertain. Let me just sit in that uncertainty because I trust and know, again, the perspective I invite you to have is that there is this higher power that nudged me so strong for a year to sell this condo. And there is something on the other side of that. And so even if for 2 months I went through the indecision and went through the fear and the scarcity and like the energy of like not trusting myself, in the end, now I have this like abundance of money and I feel this like safety and I feel whoa on the other side, like so complete and anchored into myself. But it's like through doing these really scary things and reflecting upon them that I'm able to like come out on the other side more free. And so if there's anything I'm going to leave you with, I have a little bit more to say. I don't know. We're already at the hour mark. But it's like, it's okay to do scary things as long as you are in, I don't know. What is it? What do my guides want to say? do the thing that scares you, but you know is meant for you. Because on the other side will only be magic and miracles and freedom and the fulfillment that you are looking for. I am so happy with my life. I came in like, oh, I'm so lonely. But in terms of the scope of things, I am so happy. I feel kind of bad, and this is part of the thing I'm working through this year is having unconditional acceptance for myself and others. I think the judgment still comes in, and because I'm on such a spiritual awakening journey and personal development journey, I feel like there's moments where I don't relate to other people and their issues and their problems, and or maybe it's the energy because I hold so much space with my clients. I don't have any more for friends. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out, right? Like I'm not a teacher or leader that like says I have everything figured out. I just am able to anchor and embody it. I think more because of the work I've done. But if I look at my life, I've manifested every single thing I've ever wanted. The love of my life, like like shit ton of money in my bank, a block from the beach, uh the career of my dreams. I left my 9 to 5 in October and I'm able to create full time. I have clients. Oh my gosh, my clients, my students are amazing. I've created this group and just like reflecting back to them, like everyone is a mirror to you. And if you decide to look at the world in that way, you can really grow and expand to see what not only you're projecting onto you, what they're projecting onto you, what you're projecting onto them, but also what inspires you. If someone has something that you look at and they're like, oh my gosh, they're so good at speaking, or they hold this presence about them, you have that in you. Anything you see in someone else, you have that in you. And so it can be positive, but it can also be negative. And like the power that my students hold within my Akashic containers, like they are literally downloading galactic codes, light codes for DNA activations, like on our first session. They are going into past lives to healing all the karma and clearing all the vows and contracts that they placed on themselves so that they can clear that and move forward into the leader that they're meant to be. They are finding their voice. They are understanding their place in this world. They are releasing the fear of being rejected, the fear of taking space, the fear of being seen in an online space or as a leader or someone who's a disruptor who is not in the mainstream. These are all themes I have worked on that I work on with my clients. And I see the power in them. And I understand now that it's a reflection of myself. And it's just like listening to the nudges that the universe has provided me and being able to hear them clearly. I wouldn't have any other life. I'm living the life of my freaking dreams. I am so happy. I'm like, I don't know if I could even say I'm less than 100% happy because there's moments where like, yeah, I mean, I'm sad. I was crying like 30 minutes ago, but I released it. I feel so much better now. You guys like you've seen the transformation. Maybe this is why I needed to come on here to like talk when I was at that moment of lowness because I feel like really good now. And they do say after you cry, your energy frequency goes from like I forget like 200 to like 500 hertz or 700 hertz. Like the energy release of crying is so good. It doesn't mean you're not okay. It's like, you're not a one-dimensional person. You're a multidimensional person that can feel, and your soul reincarnated here as a human to feel pleasure, to feel joy, to feel emotions, because most densities can't feel that. And so for you to block and resist the energy or the anger or the resentment or the joy that's coming through, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, how can you sit with that anger and be mad? Like, I know there's like these rage, trends going through of like going to like hit stuff with axes. For me, it was always working out. Like when I would get mad, I would go on a run or do push-ups. And I would that's how I would release my anger and energetically like process. Now I know breath work and somatic releasing, and I know journaling and tapping into God, universe through the Akashic records. So I'm able to find like a certainty and the clarity of that in that way. So let's see, how do I want to close this out? In this moment, I think when you are in this space of like, I'm already holding containers, I'm a leader in this space. There is this loneliness because I don't have a lot of followers. Like I'm not doing this full time in terms of like I like making the income I want to make. Like honestly, if I made 50,000 this year, that would be awesome. It's hard to say because last year I made 60% more. I mean, you can just do the calculations because I made 15,000 2024, but obviously I still had a side job. This year I don't. So this year it's like all me. And I'm really grateful because like my husband is obviously helping support me. I would not be able to do this alone, but he trusts and believes in me, and we have this beautiful relationship. And honestly, when we first got married and he was like, okay, I'm going to start paying for more stuff. Like I didn't expect that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I actually didn't feel worthy. And there was a moment where I was like I don't have any clients this week. And like, oh my gosh, like I don't feel worthy. Like I need to be doing something. And then I forgot, like, oh, I'm back in that cycle of the masculine overproduction, worthy energy. And so then I was like, okay, where should I focus my energy today? And it's like, okay, creating what brings you joy. So I create my ritual so I can create the foundation to create the courses that I want to bring through, because I do feel like the courses are going to be scaled this year in a beautiful way. And as you've been seeing on my Instagram, I've been, building out my courses where there's going to be more PDFs, more galactic wisdom, more chakra PDFs, more Akashic meditations within this divine remembering container. And so you'll have the one-on-one participation, but you will also have a significant amount of self-study, which hopefully will be a course later on that I can just pay passively, where people can just kind of go on their own journeys. And so what I want to leave you with, I guess the point of all of this is there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, but believe me, I want to cry again, that trusting your intuition and following your intuition and doing what is freaking scary, but being committed and devoted to it is going to change your life for the best, and you're going to live the life of your dreams. And I barely learned Reiki and energy in 2021. I barely opened the records August 2022, and I started teaching 2025. So you can change your life drastically in 3 years, but you need to put in the work, honestly. Like you need to make a choice. Like what are you going to women's circles? Are you finding these courses that you want? Are you getting therapy and maybe your talk therapy isn't working? Maybe you need somatic therapy. Maybe you need coaching. Like the therapy session I went to the one time, it kind of sucked. I don't know. I just need more. Like I won't go to someone who's not intuitive or psychic. Like my current coach, Amanda Blau, she's amazing. I hired her for 3 months to help me move through these identity shifts, moving from Danielle Margotan to Danielle Margot Gutierrez. And just like all the shifts of leaving the 9 to 5, making a sacred vow, moving locations, getting married, selling my condo, being a full-time business owner, all the shifts. And so like paying money for someone to support you. I'm not saying it has to be me, but just like doing the work, getting the readings, getting the support. I'm like, what did I do? I'm like, I took a course, right? My first was my certification course with Akashic April, and then I did Nikki Novo's soul reading method, and then I did Alyssa Nobriga's year-long coaching program. And then I'm not saying do like pay for stuff, all the things, right? Because it's like there is a point where people are just learning, and they're not integrating. Integration and embodiment are huge factors. Yes, you can absorb, but there needs to be this like spaciousness, and you don't even have to do anything. Like I said, this week, I'm just like, the energy's here in my field and it's like, hasn't settled to wisdom yet. I'm like very much in this middle area and I don't really know what's up and down, but I'm like, I know my process now after reflection and after like doing this work for so long that I know it'll settle next week. So I'm not going to like overthink what this is, even if I feel this like weird liminal space energy. And in like the smallness, I took a JJ Brighton's like light language circles in person and online. I was in Emily the Mystic's membership for a couple months. There's all these like little things just the little readings, the little coaching sessions, and just like, what are you doing to improve yourself, to really get yourself out of your bubble, out of being stuck, out of the fear and the self-doubt and the unworthiness? Like, and this is probably my own projection again, because I've done so much work. I'm like, Other people haven't. No, I mean, people have done so much work. Um, anyways, let's see if there's any final messages that want to come through. It's a journey, and entrepreneurship and being a light worker and a way shower is not for the faint of heart, but I truly believe you have a specific voice, energy, gift that is meant to come out in this world. And I think having the high perspective that the universe is guiding you and just taking the breadcrumbs, the next step without having to know the full thing. Clients come to me and they're like, what's my purpose and how do I get there? And I just read for someone and she's going to be a freaking magical medicine woman and connect to the land. And she's going to be like a community builder and move energy through the auric field and use it as the soul template for like the contracts that they're healing and the karma and like the gifts that they're activating, right? And she's like, well, I'm still working at my job 9 to 5. How do I get there? And it's like you are transitioning through every period of your life, and your soul wants to actually explore that with you. To have all the answers would be like winning life in a way that like you're not actually winning because you're not experiencing it. And like making the mistakes is going to help you grow so you know in the future. And if you don't make those mistakes, then you don't have the template of what you're going to teach other people when you become that master teacher. And so just understanding like the you teach what you work through. You teach what you learn through. You work like that's the saying, right? Like the things that you've gone through, you're able to now help other people with that because you have gone through that. And so just like I believe in you, I trust you. That's something I'm working on with marketing. Like I feel like I'm just in this, I don't know where I'm at. I can't even speak on it at this time, but I know I'm on my highest timeline. I'm super fulfilled. I'm in my purpose. I'm in love. I love myself. But then I'm like, how do I market to people? And they're like, I read somewhere it's like you have to market to people at a kindergarten level. So I'm like, I'm pulling out my old notebooks and like, I don't even know what I was going through. I mean, you guys see this is like from 2023 of all the notebooks I've had of the reflections. But yeah, anyways, whether this was, I don't know if this was helpful for you. I just felt really called to do it and share it. And, I listened to the nudges, but all that to say is like, whatever perspective you have, I'm not saying mine's the right one. I'm just saying that like, maybe there's a perspective shift that, you got from here that might help support you on your journey forward and helping you really navigate your life. I think long term, containers, like my year-long container. That's why my coaching containers are 6 months. I really think like even me who's done so much work, like everyone, most people still have work to be done. I think like the length of commitment to yourself and like that full body yes of showing up for yourself, I think it takes a certain person, and I'm celebrating everyone for all the work and whatever your capacity. I know some people have jobs and children and family and like that's maybe your purpose, like that's everyone's on the different journey and a different purpose. And like I don't know, I don't think I found a resolution of like my loneliness, but I feel better for crying. So anyways, let me know if this, like, I don't know, helped you at all. I've never posted anything like this before. It's 1:11 right now. 1:11:55. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not even going to edit this video. I'm just going to share it with you. Thank you for being here. Please like my stuff and subscribe or just like comment. It just means so much to entrepreneurs when you do that. Just like knowing you're there. Like I was at a Galentine's Day this weekend and my best friend was like, oh yeah, I screenshotted this thing you said about you and your husband. She showed me the screenshot. I was like, you literally didn't like it. You didn't comment on it. I had no idea you even were interested. And then yet like you have this saved on your phone that you are like going back to every day. I'm like, how would I know that? So it's been like an interesting thing about like what to market this year, and especially when I'm been such in a transition, but I am settling and it feels better. So anyways, I love you guys so much. So grateful for every single one of you. Let me know if any of this was like resonating or if this was just, I don't know, nonsense. Okay. Love you so much.